Classified report, eyes only. From Agent Drevin Wren, Nuclear Security Division. 2. Supervisor Theron Vale, Counterintelligence Section. Date, March 15, 2025, 14:30 Eastern Standard Time. Subject, Anomaly Report Number 447 Alpha, Multi-Site Cybersecurity Incidents. Classification, confidential. 3 separate nuclear facilities have reported minor cybersecurity incidents within the past 72 hours. While individually insignificant, the temporal clustering warrants documentation per Protocol 7 Delta. Incident Summary. Riverside Nuclear Station, Pennsylvania, March 12, 06:30 hours. Failed login attempts on secondary monitoring systems. IT reports traced attempts to expired contractor credentials from maintenance personnel who completed assignments 6 weeks prior. No system penetration detected. Facility security classified incident as routine credential cleanup oversight. Millstone Generation Complex, Connecticut, March 13, 11:45 hours. Delayed response times and radiation monitoring sensors during routine calibration. Sensors returned to normal function after 14-minute delay. Engineering staff attributed malfunction to outdated firmware requiring scheduled updates. No safety protocols triggered. Byron Nuclear Plant, Illinois, March 13, 2200 hours. Minor sensor malfunctions in cooling system temperature gauges. Readings showed fluctuations of 0.3 degrees Celsius outside normal parameters for approximately 8 minutes before self-correcting. Plant engineers documented incident as minor calibration drift within acceptable safety margins. Analysis. The incidents appear unrelated geographically and operationally. However, I note the following pattern elements that may warrant further investigation. All incidents occurred during shift transition periods when personnel attention is divided. Affected systems were secondary monitoring rather than primary safety systems. Duration of each incident fell below threshold, requiring immediate supervisor notification. All facilities employed contractors from Allied Technical Services within the past 60 days. Recommendation: routine documentation filing. No immediate action required unless similar pattern emerges across additional facilities. Personal log, Drevin Wren. March 15, 2025, 18:45 Eastern Standard Time. Location, home office. The coffee's gone cold again. 3rd cup today, and Avina's already given me that look. The one that says I'm obsessing over nothing. Maybe she's right. 27 years analyzing threats, 15 with the agency, and sometimes I see patterns where there's just coincidence. But the timestamp errors bother me. 3 facilities, 3 different time zones, 3 separate incidents, and all the error logs show identical timestamp formatting glitches, down to the millisecond precision that shouldn't exist on systems that old. IT departments explain it away as network synchronization issues, but I've seen enough cybersecurity reports to know what coordinated probing looks like. You're doing it again, Avina said over dinner, watching me push food around my plate while scrolling through incident reports on my tablet. She's seen this before, the way I get when something doesn't fit properly in the neat little boxes that keep our country's nuclear infrastructure secure. Just routine paperwork, I told her, but she knows me better than that. Drevin. She set down her fork with that deliberate precision she uses when she's about to make a point. I've been a nuclear engineer for 12 years. You've been protecting nuclear facilities for 15. We both know the difference between routine paperwork and you chasing ghosts through databases at midnight. She's right, of course. Avina's always right about these things. It's what makes her so good at her job. Senior engineer at Calvert Cliffs, methodical, practical, the kind of person who solves problems instead of creating them. Everything I wish I could be when cases like this start eating at me. Have you noticed anything unusual at your plant lately? I asked, trying to sound casual. System glitches, contractor issues, anything out of the ordinary? She paused with her water glass halfway to her lips. Funny you should ask. We had some foreign contractors last month. Allied Technical Services subcontracted them for the sensor upgrade project. Nice enough guys, but they asked a lot of detailed questions about our emergency shutdown procedures. More than they needed to know for routine maintenance work. The coffee cup felt cold in my hands. What kind of questions? Response times, backup system activation sequences, personnel access during emergencies. I figured they were just being thorough, but she shrugged. Engineering mind, you know. I kept wondering why electrical contractors needed to understand reactor protocols. Did you report it? To who? For what? Curious foreign workers isn't exactly a security violation. Besides, they had proper clearances, proper badges, proper documentation. Everything checked out through normal channels. Normal channels. The phrase sat wrong, like a puzzle piece that looks like it fits until you try to force it into place. Avina, those contractors, do you remember what country they were from? Eastern European, I think. Maybe Romanian? They spoke good English, but with an accent. She studied my face with that engineer's precision again. Why? I almost told her about the incidents, about the pattern I couldn't quite name, but couldn't quite dismiss. Instead, I kissed her forehead and said, just curious. Probably nothing. But as I sit here now, staring at 3 incident reports that officially mean nothing, I can't shake the feeling that we're looking at something carefully designed to appear routine. Something that wants to stay invisible. My secure phone buzzed 20 minutes ago. Message from Isla Wynn at NSA. We worked together on the Petrov investigation 3 years back, before she transferred to cryptanalysis. Good agent, better analyst. The kind of person who only contacts you when she's found something worth sharing. D, can you call Secure Line tonight? Found some chatter that might interest you. Patterns and intercepted comms that match some timing you'd recognize. Patterns she'd recognize. Timing either recogniza. Maybe I'm not chasing ghosts after all. Secure communication transcript. Encrypted channel 7 alpha. Marche 15, 2025, 21h15. Participants, Agent D. Ren CIA, Agent A. Wynn NSA. Wynn, thanks for calling back so late. I know you've got family time. Ren, Avina's used to it. What have you got? Wynn, remember the Petrov case? How he used legitimate business cover to mask intelligence operations. Ren, hard to forget. Took us 18 months to track his real activities through all the genuine contracts. Wynn, I've been seeing similar patterns in recent intercepts. Foreign communications that look like routine business correspondence, but with embedded timing references that don't match the supposed business activities. Ren, what kind of timing references? Wynn, facility access schedules, shift rotation data, maintenance windows. All coded as delivery schedules and service appointments, but the specificity doesn't match the supposed cargo or services. Ren, how recent? Wynn, past 6 weeks, with uptick in activity over the last 72 hours. Drevin, I ran the timing patterns against publicly available utility schedules. They match nuclear facility maintenance windows with 93% accuracy. Ren, Jesus. How many facilities? Wynn, that's the thing. I can only confirm pattern matches for facilities where I have detailed scheduling data. But the communications suggest a much broader scope. Maybe 20, 30 facilities across multiple states. Ren, I need to brief my supervisor immediately. Wynn, wait. There's something else. The communications aren't coming from known intelligence services. The linguistic patterns, encryption methods, operational security protocols, they're all civilian contractor level sophistication. Either someone's running a very deep cover operation, or Ren, or what? Wynn, or this isn't traditional espionage. The financial transfers associated with these communications flow through legitimate engineering firms, energy consultants, technical services companies. It looks more like economic activity than intelligence gathering. Ren, economic activity targeting nuclear infrastructure? Wynn, that's what worries me. If someone wanted to damage American nuclear energy credibility, direct sabotage would trigger massive security responses and international incidents. But if you could create a pattern of seemingly unrelated technical failures, equipment malfunctions, minor contamination events, Ren, you could destroy public confidence without ever being detected as hostile action. Wynn, exactly. And the beauty is, every incident would be explained away as aging infrastructure, human error, budget constraints, all the problems our nuclear industry actually has. Ren, perfect cover. Wynn, Drevin, if I'm right about this, we're not looking at traditional national security threats. We're looking at economic warfare disguised as industrial accidents. Ren, I'll brief Vale first thing tomorrow. Can you package your analysis for immediate distribution? Win, already done. But Drevin, be careful who you trust with this. If someone's coordinating this level of activity through legitimate channels, they've got access to information and systems that require significant insider cooperation. Win. The call ended at 21:47 Eastern Standard Time. I'm sitting in my home office, looking at 3 minor incident reports that suddenly don't seem minor at all. Tomorrow, I brief Theron Vale on what might be the first signs of an attack designed to be invisible. Tonight, I'm going to hold my wife a little tighter and hope I'm wrong about everything. But 15 years of protecting nuclear facilities has taught me one thing. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Automated System Alert. National Nuclear Security Monitoring Network. Marche 15, 2025, 23h42. Alert type, communication anomaly. Affected facilities, multiple, see attached list. Duration, 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Classification, routine solar interference. At 23:38 Eastern Standard Time, 17 nuclear facilities across 6 states experienced simultaneous communication blackouts lasting approximately 4 minutes. All facilities reported normal operations resumption at 23:42 Eastern Standard Time. Preliminary analysis. Solar activity monitoring indicates minor geomagnetic disturbance consistent with communication interference patterns. No security protocols triggered. No safety systems affected. Facilities affected. Riverside Nuclear Station, PA. Millstone Generation Complex, CT. Byron Nuclear Plant, Illinois. Calvert Cliffs Nuclear Power Plant, MD. List continues, 13 additional facilities. Action required, none. Routine documentation filed per standard protocol. Next review, scheduled maintenance review, April 15th, 2025. Personal log, Drevin Wren. Marche 16, 2025, minuit 15. Avina's plant was on the list. 17 facilities. For minutes and 17 seconds. Simultaneously. Solar interference doesn't work that way. Classification, confidential. Report ID, NSD, 2024-1127 BWR. Analyst, D. Wren, Nuclear Security Division. Date, November 27th, 2024, 0847 hours. Incident expansion analysis. 48 hours after filing report number 447 Alpha, I've identified 12 additional facilities experiencing similar anomalies. The pattern is undeniable. Calvert Cliffs in Maryland, Wolf Creek in Kansas, Seabrook in New Hampshire, and 9 others across 7 states. All reported identical 4-minute communication blackouts during evening shift changes. All blamed solar interference. Solar interference doesn't follow shift schedules. I submitted request for investigation expansion, RIE 2024-772, to Supervisor Vale at 0630. His response arrived 23 minutes later. Resources currently allocated to higher priority threats. Recommend monitoring situation through routine channels. Higher priority than potential coordinated attacks on nuclear infrastructure? I've been analyzing threats to critical systems for 15 years. This isn't routine equipment failure. This is reconnaissance. Personnel interview, AON. Conducted informal interview with my wife, Avina, regarding conditions at Millstone Station, where she serves as senior nuclear engineer. Her observations concern me more than the official reports. 3 weeks ago, we had a team of contractor technicians upgrade our security badge readers. She told me over coffee this morning. Foreign guys, but their clearances checked out. Eastern European accents, maybe Romanian or Bulgarian. They asked detailed questions about our emergency shutdown procedures, said they needed to understand protocols for their security system integration. I asked why security contractors would need shutdown protocol information. That's what I wondered. When I mentioned it to my supervisor, he said it was standard procedure for new badge systems. But Drevin, she paused, using that tone that means she's about to tell me something important. I found one of their old badges yesterday, just lying in the parking lot near the restricted vehicle entrance. The name on it was M. Petrov, but the photo didn't match any of the contractors I saw. I've requested analysis of the badge through our forensics lab. Told them it's related to a security assessment exercise. Sometimes you have to be creative with bureaucracy. Cryptanalysis consultation. Called Isla Wynn at NSA this afternoon. We worked together on the Indian Point assessment in 2019. She has a talent for seeing patterns in communications data that others miss. If anyone could help verify my suspicions, it would be her. Funny you should call, she said after I explained the situation. I've been tracking some unusual encrypted traffic patterns. Short burst transmissions, highly sophisticated encryption, but the timing caught my attention. They've been occurring at regular intervals, every 72 hours, lasting exactly 90 seconds. I asked about the timing of these transmissions relative to the facility incidents. That's the interesting part. The transmissions precede your solar interference events by approximately 6 hours. Every single time, she's sending me preliminary analysis through secure channels. The transmission sources appear to be mobile, different geographical locations each time, but always within a 100-mile radius of nuclear facilities. Financial constraints assessment. My investigation expansion request was officially denied at 1,430 hours. Supervisor Vale's reasoning. Current budget allocations do not support speculative investigation protocols. Standard monitoring procedures are sufficient for addressing equipment malfunctions. Equipment malfunctions? Right. Called our department's resource allocation office. Apparently, we're operating under enhanced fiscal responsibility measures due to end-of-fiscal-year budget constraints. Meanwhile, I know for a fact that Vale approved a $200,000 expenditure last week for Executive Leadership Development Retreat in Bermuda. I'm beginning to understand why threats sometimes succeed. It's not because we can't see them coming. It's because we can't afford to look. Medical anomaly cross-reference. Decided to expand my analysis beyond the facilities themselves. If someone is conducting reconnaissance or testing attacks on nuclear infrastructure, there might be related indicators in the surrounding areas. Called Dr. Elizabeth Chun at CDC's Radiation Emergency Response Team. We worked together on the Dirty Bomb exercise in 2022. Asked her to run a query on unusual medical presentations within 50-mile radii of the affected facilities. Her callback at 1,620 hours was disturbing. I found something, but I'm not sure what it means, she said. Emergency departments in areas near your facilities have seen a 15% increase in patients presenting with what they're calling flu-like symptoms over the past 3 weeks. Fatigue, mild nausea, headaches. Nothing severe enough to require admission, but the pattern is geographically clustered. Early radiation exposure symptoms often mimic flu. Most people, including many healthcare providers, wouldn't recognize the connection. Elizabeth, have any of these hospitals run radiation screening on these patients? That's what's strange. I called 3 of the hospitals directly. They all said their radiation detection equipment has been experiencing calibration issues and is temporarily out of service for maintenance. Evening assessment. Avina came home late tonight. Her facility experienced a minor glitch in their radiation monitoring system at 1900 hours. Exactly 4 minutes of connectivity lost during shift change. She said the backup systems showed normal readings, so they filed it as a routine maintenance issue. But I noticed she brought home our personal dosimeter from the emergency kit. She's keeping it in her purse. We've been married 12 years. She doesn't do things like that without reason. I spent the evening cross-referencing the personnel rosters from the affected facilities. 17 different contractors have provided security system upgrades across the affected sites in the past 6 weeks. Only 3 are American companies. The others have addresses in countries with complicated relationships with American energy infrastructure. Communication intercept analysis. Isla's preliminary report arrived via secure email at 2,147 hours. The encrypted transmissions she's been tracking contain GPS coordinates. I ran them through our geographical database. Every single coordinate set corresponds to a nuclear facility that has experienced the solar interference events. But here's what makes my blood run cold. The most recent transmission batch contained coordinates for facilities that haven't reported incidents yet. 12 locations, including 3 in California and 2 in Texas. One of the Texas coordinates is 30 miles from where my sister lives. Operational assessment. I'm no longer filing this as a routine monitoring report. Based on available evidence, I believe we are observing the early phases of a coordinated reconnaissance operation targeting American nuclear infrastructure. The silent invasion terminology from classified intelligence briefs I'm not supposed to know about suddenly makes terrible sense. Someone is mapping our vulnerabilities, testing our response times, and possibly conducting preliminary sabotage operations designed to degrade our ability to detect actual radiological incidents. Tomorrow I'm implementing emergency protocols to bypass normal approval channels. If Vail won't authorize proper investigation, I'll find other ways to protect American lives. Personal note: called my daughter at college tonight, told her I love her. Didn't explain why. Some conversations can wait, others can't. End report. Next transmission in 6 hours. Monitor all channels. Classification: confidential. Classified report: eyes only. Agent: Dreven Wren, Nuclear Security Division. Date: redacted. Time: 0347 hours. Location: secure vehicle, Route 15 North. Invoking Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha. Theron's stonewalling ends now. 3 hours ago, I made the call that will either save thousands of lives or end my career. Maybe both. The bureaucratic maze wasn't going to solve itself while radiation detectors malfunctioned in 3 major cities. Sometimes you have to choose between following orders and following your oath. Isla agreed to meet me at 0200. Her NSA clearance combined with my nuclear security access should get us into Hanford, Avina's facility. If we're right about the sabotage, we'll find proof. If we're wrong, we'll face a disciplinary hearing that'll make Watergate look like a parking ticket. You know this violates about 12 different protocols, Isla said as we cleared the facility checkpoint. Her cryptanalyst brain was probably calculating the exact number of federal crimes we were committing. Theron's political games are the real violation, I replied, showing my badge to the night security guard. American citizens are breathing contaminated air while he worries about energy company stock prices. The guard, a kid named Martinez who couldn't be older than 22, waved us through without question. That was the first red flag. Hanford's security protocols require supervisor approval for after-hours access, even for federal agents. Either the guard was incompetent, or someone had already compromised standard procedures. Inside the facility, fluorescent lights hummed overhead like dying insects. The corridors smelled of industrial cleaning chemicals and something else, a metallic tang that made my teeth ache. 15 years of nuclear security work had taught me to trust my senses in these environments. Something was wrong with the air circulation system. We found Avina in Control Room C, surrounded by computer screens displaying radiation monitoring data. She looked up when we entered, her face a mixture of relief and fear. "Thank God you came," she whispered, gesturing for us to come closer. "I've been documenting everything, but I needed someone with your clearance to witness this." She pulled up a diagnostic screen, showing the facility's safety monitoring network. To an untrained eye, everything looked normal: green lights, stable readings, all systems operational. But Avina's engineering expertise revealed the truth hiding beneath the surface. "Look at the timestamp synchronization," she said, pointing to a series of numbers in the corner of each monitor. "Every sensor is reporting data correctly, but the timestamps are off by exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The same delay we've been seeing in the solar interference events." Isla leaned forward, her cryptanalyst instincts engaged. "That's not solar interference. That's a buffer delay. Someone's intercepting the sensor data, processing it, then feeding modified information back to the central system." My blood went cold. "Modified how?" Avina's fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up raw sensor data from the facility's backup systems, the ones that weren't connected to the main network. The numbers told a different story than the official displays. "Radiation levels in Sector 7 are actually 30% higher than what the main system is reporting," she said. "The malware is designed to gradually reduce the accuracy of our monitoring equipment while making it appear to function normally. Small decreases over time that wouldn't trigger alarms." "Jesus Christ," I breathed. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on the degradation pattern, at least 6 months. Maybe longer." Avina pulled up more data, her face growing paler with each screen. The foreign contractors had access to these systems during the security badge updates last winter. They had legitimate clearance, so their access wouldn't show up in standard security audits. Isla was already running traces on her encrypted laptop, cross-referencing the malware signatures with NSA databases. "This is sophisticated stuff," she muttered. "Military-grade cyber warfare tools. The kind of thing that takes years to develop and deploy." I felt the pieces clicking together like a weapon being assembled. It's not about stealing nuclear material or causing explosions. They're creating invisible radiation leaks, contamination that goes undetected until it's too late to prevent health impacts. "The perfect silent invasion," Isla said grimly. "Destroy American nuclear energy credibility, tank the economy with cleanup costs, create a healthcare crisis that'll burden the system for decades, all while maintaining plausible deniability about foreign involvement." A soft chime from Avina's workstation interrupted our analysis. A new message had appeared on her secure terminal, one that made my stomach drop. "Emergency protocol update," the message read. "New safety procedures effective immediately. All radiation monitoring reports must be approved by regional coordinator before transmission to federal agencies. Estimated processing time, 72 to 96 hours. Avina stared at the screen in disbelief. They're institutionalizing the delay, making it official policy so the cover-up becomes part of normal operations. That's when I realized we weren't just investigating sabotage. We were witnessing the final phase of a coordinated attack on American infrastructure. The foreign agents had done their work. Now American bureaucracy would complete the job for them. I pulled out my encrypted phone to call Theron, then stopped. If he was receiving political pressure to suppress the investigation, bringing him evidence might just get it buried deeper. We needed another approach. "Can you copy all this data to a secure drive?" I asked Avina. She nodded, already inserting a classified storage device into her workstation. "Everything, the malware signatures, the contamination data, the timeline analysis. But Drevin, if I'm caught copying classified facility data, if we don't copy it, there might not be a facility left to worry about," I replied. "How many other plants are showing similar symptoms?" Isla looked up from her laptop. "Based on the communication intercepts I've been analyzing, at least 15 facilities across 7 states. This isn't an isolated attack, it's a coordinated campaign." The magnitude of the threat was staggering. 15 nuclear facilities gradually leaking radiation into surrounding communities while monitoring systems reported false safety readings. Thousands of people being exposed to contamination without knowing it. Years of health impacts that would only become apparent when it was too late for effective treatment. As Avina finished copying the data, I made a decision that would change everything. "We're going public," I announced. "NSA crypto analysis, CIA nuclear security assessment, and engineering data from an actual facility. Triple source confirmation that even the media can't ignore." "That's career suicide," Isla warned. "Maybe, but it's the only way to break through the political blockade before more people get contaminated." Avina handed me the secure drive, her eyes reflecting the same determination I felt. "There's something else you need to know. The foreign contractors didn't just install malware, they also accessed our emergency response protocols. They know exactly how we'll respond to a nuclear crisis, and they've positioned themselves to exploit those procedures. Meaning when the truth comes out, they'll be ready for whatever countermeasures we attempt." This whole thing was planned years in advance. As we prepared to leave the facility, Isla's encrypted phone buzzed with an incoming message. Her face went white as she read it. "What is it?" I asked. She showed me the screen. A single line of text from an unknown sender. "Phase 2 initiates tomorrow. Monitor news cycles for confirmation. 24 hours. Whatever was coming next, we had less than a day to prevent it. We left Hanford with evidence of the most sophisticated attack on American infrastructure in history. But as we drove through the pre-dawn darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already too late. The silent invasion hadn't just begun, it was entering its final phase. My phone rang as we reached the highway. Theron's number. "Ren, where the hell are you? There's been a development. Get to the office immediately." I looked at Isla, then at the secure drive containing proof of the sabotage. We could follow orders and hope the system would protect American citizens, or we could trust the evidence and prepare for the worst. "On our way," I told Theron, then ended the call. But we weren't heading to the office. We were going to find out what Phase 2 looked like and pray we could stop it before tomorrow's news cycle confirmed our worst fears. The silent invasion was about to become very loud indeed. CIA Internal Memo Classification, Eyes Only. From D. Wren, Nuclear Security Division. To Crisis Response Archive. Subject, Acceleration Phase Documentation. Timestamp, 14:37 and 22 seconds Eastern Standard Time. Day 4 of investigation. The morning briefing felt different. Theron's usual dismissive confidence had cracks in it, hairline fractures that only 15 years of reading bureaucratic tells could detect. He kept glancing at his secure phone, fingers drumming against the conference table's polished surface. Minor radiation events, he repeated for the third time, sliding identical reports across to me. Routine maintenance issues at Millstone, Prairie Island, and Comanche Peak. Nothing that requires our level of attention. I scanned the incident reports. Same language, same timing, same reassuring conclusions. Too identical. The kind of coordination that only happened when someone wanted a unified narrative. Sir, these facilities are operated by different companies, different safety protocols, different. Different doesn't matter when they're all following NRC guidelines. His phone buzzed. Another glance, another finger drum. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has this handled. Our focus needs to be on actual foreign threats, not domestic maintenance issues. The metallic taste of fear settled in my mouth. In 24 hours, we'd gone from investigating cyber intrusions to being told to ignore simultaneous radiation releases. The timeline made my spine crawl. What about the communication blackouts? The malware Isla found. Isla Win is NSA. Different agency, different jurisdiction. Her findings don't apply to our investigation. Theron stood, straightening his tie with practiced precision. Consider this your official reassignment notice. I need you focused on the Syrian nuclear materials trafficking case. Syrian trafficking. Bureaucratic exile disguised as important work. I'd seen this play before. Shuffle the troublesome analyst to a complex, long-term case that would keep them buried in paperwork for months. My secure phone vibrated against my ribs. Text from Avina. Core cooling irregularities detected. Emergency protocols initiated. Can't talk, lockdown procedures. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sir, my wife's facility is implementing emergency protocols. I need to. Your wife is a professional. She can handle her job without CIA oversight. But Theron's eye twitched. He knew. Whatever was happening, whatever web of institutional paralysis was being spun around this investigation, he knew my family was in the crosshairs. I gathered the reports, buying time to think. Standard operating procedure demanded I follow orders, file the paperwork, trust the system. But Avina's training scenarios never involved malware-compromised safety systems. Her emergency protocols were designed for mechanical failures, human error, natural disasters, not sophisticated sabotage by foreign agents with legitimate facility access. Understood, sir. I'll transition to the Syrian case immediately. Relief flickered across his features. Good. I'll have the files transferred to your workstation. 3 minutes later, I was violating direct orders. Encrypted channel, frequency 7.245 MHz. Participants, D. Wren, A. Win. Location, secure communication room, sublevel 3. Isla, I need everything you found on those communication intercepts. All of it. Static crackled through the headset. Her voice came through filtered, distant. Drevin, you're supposed to be off this case. My supervisor received a formal request to restrict your access to. How many facilities are showing radiation irregularities? Silence. Then, 17 confirmed. Maybe 23 if we count the ones with malfunctioning detection equipment. My hands went cold. 17 facilities. The malware hadn't just compromised 3 sites, it was systemic. A coordinated attack designed to create widespread contamination while keeping monitoring systems blind to the true scale. Jesus Christ. Why isn't this triggering emergency response? Because the readings are all technically within acceptable variants. The malware is brilliant. It's not making safety systems fail catastrophically. It's making them fail gradually, creating slow radiation leaks that register as minor anomalies instead of emergency events. Death by 1,000 cuts. Radiation exposure levels that wouldn't kill immediately wouldn't create dramatic scenes for news cameras, wouldn't trigger public panic. Just slow, invisible contamination that would cause cancer clusters, birth defects, and environmental damage over decades. How long before the health impacts become obvious? 5 years minimum, maybe 10. By the time anyone connects the cancer rates to these minor incidents, the responsible parties will be long gone and the evidence will be buried in bureaucratic archives. The perfect crime: environmental terrorism disguised as industrial accidents, with a delayed action payload that would cripple American nuclear energy credibility while maximizing long-term human suffering. "I'm sending you encrypted coordinates," Isla continued. "There's someone you need to meet, a journalist who's been tracking similar patterns in other countries. Russia did this to Ukraine in 2019. China tried it in Taiwan. Now it's our turn." My workstation chimed with an incoming file transfer, the Syrian trafficking case Theron wanted me buried in. 47 pages of bureaucratic maze designed to keep me occupied, while American civilians got slowly poisoned. "Isla, if this is real, if this is as widespread as you're suggesting, why isn't the government responding?" Another silence. Longer this time. "Maybe they are responding, just not the way we expected." Personal log, voice recording. Location: parking level B3 Langley. Time: 16h22. Note: encrypted and uploaded to secure server for potential posthumous access. I'm sitting in my car, staring at a text message from a number I don't recognize. Nevera Sloan, Washington Herald. "We need to talk. I have information about your wife's facility. Everything in my training screams trap. Journalists don't get CIA agents' personal phone numbers. They don't know about classified investigations. They certainly don't have real-time information about nuclear facility operations. But 17 facilities are leaking radiation. My wife is locked down in an emergency protocol, and my own agency has ordered me to ignore the biggest national security threat I've ever encountered." Another text. Hospital admissions for respiratory illness up 340% in areas surrounding nuclear facilities. CDC is calling it seasonal flu variants. Check the maps yourself. I'm checking. Dear God, I'm checking, and the patterns match perfectly. Counties within 50 miles of nuclear facilities, showing massive spikes in emergency room visits, all diagnosed as viral infections, all treated with standard flu protocols that won't help radiation exposure symptoms. The silent invasion isn't coming. It's already here. It's been happening for weeks, maybe months, while we focused on traditional threats: bombs, missiles, armed invasion. They didn't need to destroy our nuclear facilities. They just needed to make them kill us slowly. My phone buzzes again. Avina, cooling system failing. Manual override isn't responding. If you get this, take Sarah and head north. Don't trust official evacuation routes. The taste of copper fills my mouth. Blood from biting my tongue, or something worse. I'm gonna meet this journalist. If it's a trap, at least I'll die knowing someone tried to warn people. If it's real, maybe there's still time to stop this. But first, I need to get my daughter. Text message thread, encrypted app. Participants: D. Ren, Emergency Contact Network. Time: 17h45. D. Ren, Sarah's school pickup complete. She's asking why we're going camping on a Tuesday. Unknown. Coffee shop, 2nd and M Street. Look for woman with red scarf, reading newspaper at corner table. D. Ren, how did you get this number? Unknown, your wife gave it to me. Before her facility went into complete communications lockdown. D. Ren, prove it. Unknown, she said you'd ask that. She said to tell you the anniversary gift wasn't actually a surprise because you left the receipt on your desk. Green earrings from Tiffany, purchased March 15th. My hands shake as I type the response. Only Avina knew about that receipt. Only she would remember such a specific detail, would think to use it as authentication in a crisis. D. Ren, 10 minutes. Unknown, come alone. Bring your daughter. Where we're going, she'll be safer than staying in the city. The radio crackles with emergency service chatter as I drive through downtown Washington. Unusual activity at 3 hospitals. Respiratory distress cases being moved to isolation wards. CDC teams deploying to investigate potential viral outbreak. Sarah chatters in the back seat about her math test, about her friend Emma's birthday party next week, about whether we'll see bears on our camping trip. Normal 8-year-old concerns in a world that stopped being normal the moment foreign agents gained access to our nuclear facilities. The coffee shop appears ahead, windows glowing warm against the October twilight. A woman with a red scarf sits at the corner table, newspaper folded beside an untouched cup of coffee. She looks up as I enter, and her eyes hold the same haunted knowledge I've been carrying for the past 4 days. The knowledge that America is under attack, and almost nobody realizes it yet. She stands, extends a hand. Nevera Sloan, I'm sorry about your wife's facility. We might still be able to help her, but we need to move fast. Sarah tugs at my jacket. Daddy, why does the lady look scared? I kneel down, meeting my daughter's eyes. Sometimes grown-ups have to solve big problems, sweetheart. This lady is going to help us solve one. Nevera checks her watch. We have maybe an hour before the roads north become impassable. The evacuation routes are already compromised. Compromised how? The same people who sabotaged the nuclear facilities have been mapping emergency response protocols for months. They know exactly where evacuees will be directed, exactly which routes will be congested, exactly where to position their extraction teams. The coffee shop suddenly feels like a fishbowl, all windows and exposure. Every customer could be surveillance, every shadow could hide a threat. What extraction teams? The ones who are going to disappear tonight, taking every piece of evidence with them, leaving America to deal with decades of contamination while they fade back into whatever intelligence service sent them. Sarah's hand finds mine, small fingers wrapping around my palm. Daddy, are we really going camping? I look at Nevera, at the knowledge in her eyes, at the newspaper folded beside her coffee. The headline reads, Energy Secretary announces comprehensive nuclear safety review following minor facility incidents. Minor incidents. 17 facilities leaking radiation, and they're calling them minor incidents. Yes, sweetheart, we're going camping. For a very long time. Classification, Umbra, eyes only. Analyst, D, Ren, fugitive status. Date, timestamp corrupted. Location, mobile unit, encrypted transmission. National emergency declaration, classification level, Umbra. If anyone receives this transmission, know that everything we've been told is a lie. At 0347 hours this morning, I watched my country fall to an enemy that never fired a shot. The routine maintenance incidents at Millbrook, Cascade Point, Thunder Ridge, Copper Valley, and Northern Lights facilities weren't incidents. They were coordinated strikes against our nuclear infrastructure, executed with surgical precision by an enemy that's been inside our systems for months. I'm transmitting from the back of Isla's van, racing north on I-95 while radiation plumes spread invisibly through the morning air behind us. The Geiger counter in my lap clicks steadily, background radiation already elevated 50 miles from the nearest facility. By evening, it'll reach the major population centers. By tomorrow, millions of people will be breathing contaminated air and drinking poison water, and most won't know for weeks. The emergency alert system broadcasts the same lie every 15 minutes. Contained incidents. No threat to public safety. Avoid facility perimeters as precautionary measure. Contained. Jesus Christ. Let me tell you what contained looks like when you're holding actual radiation detection equipment instead of the compromised monitors they're using for official readings. At 0230, Millbrook's cooling system experienced what they're calling a pressure valve malfunction. The malfunction released primary coolant directly into the ventilation system for exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds, long enough to irradiate the entire facility and create an airborne plume that's now drifting southeast toward Richmond. The automated emergency systems that should have contained the release were operating on the corrupted firmware Isla, and I discovered yesterday. Instead of sealing containment, they opened auxiliary vents to reduce pressure buildup. Cascade Point's electrical fire was actually a coordinated sabotage of their backup power systems, forcing them to use emergency cooling protocols that vented radioactive steam directly into the atmosphere. The fire department that responded, they were using radiation detectors that had been recalibrated by the same foreign contractors who installed the malware. I can see the plume from Thunder Ridge on the horizon, a faint shimmer in the early morning light that looks like heat distortion. It's not heat. It's invisible death spreading through the Shenandoah Valley at 15 miles per hour. The phone in my pocket buzzes with another emergency alert. Multiple facility incidents under investigation. Public advised to remain indoors in affected areas pending official assessment. Remain indoors. As if walls can stop radiation. Isla pounds the steering wheel, her face illuminated by the green glow of our encrypted communication array. Drevin, you need to see this. She hands me a tablet displaying intercepted communications from the past 4 hours. Intercept 001 Alpha. Phase 2 execution complete. All primary targets achieved optimal dispersal. Monitoring assets report official response maintaining cover parameters. Intercept 003 Charlie. Extraction protocols initiated. Asset removal commences at 0800. Economic objectives achieved within acceptable parameters. Intercept 007 Delta. Recommend acceleration of media narrative. Public awareness threshold approaching critical levels. Suggest enhanced information suppression protocols. Enhanced information suppression. That's why every independent radiation monitor in the region suddenly went offline at 0400. That's why the CDC's preliminary contamination reports are classified above my clearance level. That's why 3 journalists who tried to broadcast from the exclusion zones were arrested for interfering with emergency response operations. The enemy didn't invade our country with armies or bombs. They invaded with balance sheets and bureaucracy. They bought our silence with campaign contributions and infrastructure contracts. They weaponized our own systems against us, turning our nuclear facilities into dispersal devices for a contamination event that will cripple American energy independence for decades. Navarro was right about the scope, wrong about the timeline. This isn't preparation for economic warfare. This is economic warfare, executed in real time while we pretend it's a series of unfortunate accidents. My secure phone rings. Theron's number. Ren, where the hell are you? I've got Homeland Security breathing down my neck demanding to know why one of my analysts is broadcasting unauthorized intel on encrypted frequencies. Sir, the contamination levels. The contamination levels are being handled by qualified personnel following established protocols. Your job is to return to Langley immediately for debriefing. Theron, I'm holding a working Geiger counter. The official readings are wrong. The emergency response is compromised. We have hours before. Agent Wren. His voice drops to the tone he uses when ending careers. You are in violation of direct orders from the Director of National Intelligence. Return to base immediately or face charges of treason for unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Treason. For trying to save American lives from an ongoing attack on American soil. I end the call and remove the battery from the phone. Isla glances at me. Let me guess. Official channels have been compromised. All the way to the top. I stare at the radiation readings on my screen. The numbers keep climbing. They're not going to stop this, Isla. They can't stop this. Too many people in too many places made too many deals with the wrong people. She nods grimly. So what do we do? Before I can answer, her communication array crackles to life. A woman's voice, barely audible through static. Any federal assets receiving this transmission. Facility lockdown protocols initiated. Cooling system failure imminent. GPS coordinates 37.2431N 76.6412. I know those coordinates. I know that voice. Avina. My hands shake as I adjust the frequency, trying to clear the signal. Avina, if you can hear this, respond. Drevin calling. Respond. Static. Then, Drevin? Thank God. Listen to me carefully. Containment breach in progress. Primary cooling system sabotaged beyond repair. Core temperature rising. I can hold it for maybe 30 minutes, but I need you to get Sarah and get north. Far north. We're coming for you. Hold your position. We're coming. No. Her voice cuts through my desperation like a blade. You can't. The facility is sealed. Emergency lockdown engaged. External access impossible. There has to be a way. Drevin. The static clears for a moment, and I can hear the alarm klaxons blaring in the background. The cooling system failure isn't accidental. They wanted this. They wanted all of this. The contamination, the cover-up, the economic collapse. We're not fighting an invasion, we're fighting a harvest. What do you mean? While we're distracted by radiation cleanup and political investigations, They're acquiring our nuclear technology patents, our facility designs, our enrichment protocols. By the time we rebuild, they'll own the global nuclear market. The connection degrades, her voice fading in and out. Sarah, North, Canadian border, medical supplies, underground railroad, government employees who can't trust anyone in Washington. Avina, static. Isla's hand touches my shoulder. Drevin. I turn to look at her, and she's staring at the GPS display. We're 43 miles from Avina's facility. The radiation readings are spiking. If she's right about the timeline, Isla doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't need to. 30 minutes. Maybe less now. I think of Sarah, my daughter, asleep in her dorm room at Georgetown, probably dreaming of finals week and summer vacation plans, completely unaware that her mother is about to die preventing a nuclear disaster that will reshape the eastern seaboard. I think of the millions of people in Richmond, Norfolk, D.C., Baltimore, who are starting their morning routines while invisible clouds of death drift toward their cities. I think of the foreign agents who are probably already heading to extraction points, their mission accomplished beyond their wildest projections. North, I say finally. We go north. We get Sarah. We find this underground railroad Avina mentioned. And then, I look at the communication array, at the encrypted frequencies still carrying fragments of desperate transmissions from other government employees who figured out what's happening. Voices calling out coordinates of safe zones, medical supply locations, contamination-free water sources. Then we make sure this doesn't happen again. The van crests a hill, and I can see the glow on the southern horizon that marks Avina's facility. In the distance, emergency vehicles race toward a disaster they're not equipped to handle, following protocols designed to fail. My wife is going to die in 23 minutes, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. But I can make sure the people responsible pay for what they've done. The Geiger counter in my lap clicks faster now, measuring the price of our national blindness in particles per minute. Transmission ends, signal lost. Analyst note, final confirmed transmission from Agent D, Ren before communication blackout. Northern Virginia facility experienced catastrophic cooling system failure at 0847 hours. Official casualty report, 23 personnel. Unofficial casualty report, classified. Status update, Agent Ren designated AWOL. Locate and detain for national security debriefing. Priority critical. Distribution, eyes only, director level clearance required. Off-grid protocol activated. Day 3 post-breach, 0347 hours. Location, I-95 North, mile marker 183. Radiation level, 2.3 MSV/HR. Geiger counter salvaged from abandoned CDC vehicle. The windshield wipers can't clear the ash. Gray powder settles on everything, cars, road signs, the face mask I fashioned from Isla's scarf. 3 days since the contained incidents went public, and the fallout isn't supposed to reach this far north. The Geiger counter's steady clicking says otherwise. Emma sleeps in the passenger seat, her 9-year-old face peaceful despite the N95 mask I managed to find at the last pharmacy that wasn't already stripped bare. She doesn't know her mother is dead. Doesn't know the evacuation drill won't end with us going home. I've been telling her we're going to see Aunt Sarah in Vermont, but Sarah's phone went to voicemail yesterday. Same as everyone else's. The Honda's running on fumes, literally and figuratively. Last gas station had a handwritten sign, cash only. $20 per gallon. Radiation tested. The attendant wore a full hazmat suit and still looked nervous. I paid with the emergency fund Avina insisted we keep in the safe. Smart woman. God, I miss her voice. Nevera's been quiet since we picked her up outside Arlington. The investigative journalist who'd been tracking the story for months now stares out the back window like she's expecting pursuit. Maybe she is. Her laptop died when we hit the first checkpoint, some kind of EMP effect from the safety protocols. She says she has the story memorized, every source, every document. I hope she's right. Someone needs to tell the world what really happened. Signal, Isla says from the back seat, adjusting the radio scanner. Static fills the car, then a voice breaks through. Emergency broadcast. This is Raven's Rest repeating on emergency frequency 146.52. Safe zone established. Grid coordinates 44.2156 north, 72.8087 West. Medical facilities operational. Radiation screening available. Food and water tested clean. This is Raven's Rest, broadcasting every 6 hours on emergency frequency. The transmission cuts to static. Emma stirs, pulling her blanket tighter. In the rearview mirror, I catch Isla's eyes. She's thinking the same thing I am. Coordinates put the broadcast somewhere in central Vermont. Maybe 3 hours if the roads are clear. Big if. Could be a trap. Navarra finally speaks, her voice hoarse from the smoke we drove through outside Richmond. Foreign assets setting up collection points. Could be salvation, Isla counters. We've got maybe 8 hours of clean water left, and Emma's showing early symptoms. I glance at my daughter. The fatigue, the slight nausea she's been fighting. Could be radiation exposure. Could be stress and bad food. Could be my imagination manufacturing worst-case scenarios because I'm a father who failed to protect his family. The Geiger counter clicks faster as we pass an overturned military transport. Hazmat suits scattered on the asphalt like discarded cocoons. No bodies visible, but the radiation signature spikes to 4.1 MSV/HR. I floor the accelerator, leaving the hot zone behind. Daddy. Emma's voice is small, muffled by the mask. When are we going home? The question I've been dreading. I reach over and squeeze her hand. We're gonna find somewhere safe first, sweetheart. Then we'll figure out the rest. She nods, trusting me completely. The weight of that trust sits heavy in my chest. Ivana always said I was good at analyzing threats, bad at accepting uncertainty. Right now, uncertainty is all we have. Mile marker 195. The radio crackles again, different voice this time. All units, this is Sanctuary Control. Roadblock established at Junction 89 North. Screening protocols in effect. Medical personnel standing by. Repeat, medical personnel standing by for radiation assessment. Isla leans forward. That's not the same transmission. Someone's coordinating multiple safe zones. Or herding us into kill boxes, Navarra mutters. Classic intelligence operation. Create the illusion of safety. Gather targets in controlled environments. I want to argue, but she's not wrong. My training screams the same warnings. But Emma's getting sicker, and the radiation levels keep climbing. Sometimes the dangerous choice is the only choice. We're running out of options, I say, making the decision that might kill us all. We head for the coordinates. If it's a trap, at least we'll know. The exit ramp for Route 89 North appears through the haze. More abandoned cars line the roadside, some with doors hanging open, others with windows smashed. People fled in panic, leaving everything behind. Smart people. Unlike us, driving deeper into the contaminated zone because we have nowhere else to go. As we climb the on-ramp, the Geiger counter's clicking slows. The radiation levels drop to 1.8 MSV/HR, then 1.2. Clean air at last. Look, Emma says, pointing ahead. Through the windshield, I see them, other cars moving in the same direction. Survivors like us, following the same desperate hope. We're not alone after all. The radio crackles one more time. Sanctuary Control to all inbound traffic. Welcome to the green zone. Radiation levels normal. Medical screening begins in 10 minutes. Hold position and prepare for decontamination. I catch Isla's eye in the mirror. She nods once. Whatever we're driving into, we're committed now. Emma squeezes my hand. Are we safe now, Daddy? I don't know how to answer that. Safety is a luxury we lost 3 days ago. But maybe, just maybe, we found something close to it. We're going to find out, sweetheart. We're going to find out. Memorial Protocol, Kia Notification. Classification, UMBRA/eyes only. Field Report, Agent D. Wren. Day 12 post-incident. The Geiger counter's clicking fills the silence like a broken metronome. Each pulse reminds me that time is measured differently now, not in hours or days, but in millisieverts and REM exposure. Kira sleeps against my shoulder in the abandoned ranger station, her breath shallow but steady. The pink flush on her cheeks isn't from the cold. I keep writing because stopping means thinking, and thinking means remembering Avina's final transmission crackling through the radio static. Cooling system failure in 30 minutes. If you can hear this, get our daughter and run north. I love you both. That was 72 hours ago. The news reports called it a contained incident with minimal environmental impact. They're still lying. Isla's body went cold 2 hours after we lost the radio contact with the extraction team. The bullet wound in her chest had been bleeding slowly, steadily, since Navarra's betrayal at the checkpoint. She'd insisted she was fine, could keep moving, would make it to the safe zone. In the end, she died trying to reload her service weapon, still believing she could protect us. Dad? Kira's voice is barely a whisper. Is Mom really gone? I've been dreading this question for 3 days. In the field, you learn to compartmentalize, mission first, process later. But there's no mission manual for explaining to your daughter that her mother died, saving thousands of people who will never know her name. Yes, sweetheart. She's gone. Kira doesn't cry. She's too much like Avina, practical, strong, focused on what needs to be done. Instead, she asks, did it hurt? The truth is classified at levels I can't access from memory. Radiation exposure from close proximity to reactor core breach would have been instantaneous at those levels. Avina would have had maybe 30 seconds of consciousness, long enough to activate the emergency containment protocols, long enough to know she was saving us. No, I tell her. It was very quick. The lie comes easily. It's the first of many I'll tell her. Through the cracked window, I watch the sunset paint the contaminated landscape in shades of gold and crimson. Beautiful and deadly. The Geiger counter's clicking increases. We're still in the fallout drift pattern, even this far north. The iodine tablets are keeping the worst of the thyroid absorption at bay, but Kira's lymph nodes are swollen. Her temperature has been climbing for 6 hours. The notebook pages are getting harder to write on. My hands shake now, not from radiation, but from the weight of what I had to do. Navarra was loading a fresh magazine when I put 3 rounds center mass. Clean grouping, textbook technique. She went down looking surprised, as if she hadn't expected me to figure out her game. The journalist credentials were genuine. Washington Post, 5 years of nuclear policy coverage, Pulitzer nomination for her series on reactor safety. But the satellite phone in her pack was broadcasting our location every 30 minutes to a frequency that traced back to a cargo ship currently heading northeast toward international waters. You don't understand, she'd said, blood foaming at the corners of her mouth. This was always going to happen. The infrastructure was too vulnerable. We just accelerated the timeline. I left her body in the ranger station bathroom. Kira doesn't know. She thinks Navarra stayed behind to delay the pursuit team that caught up to us at the checkpoint. Another lie. They stack up like contaminated debris. The emergency radio crackles with automated broadcasts. Residents of affected areas should remain indoors. Follow decontamination protocols. Medical assistance stations are being established at the following locations. The coordinates they're listing are inside the hot zones. More lies. But then through the static, something different. Hardened facility, grid coordinates follows. Medical treatment available. This is our last broadcast. The coordinates are 40 miles northeast. Deeper into the contamination zone, but toward the mountains where the fallout plume should be thinner. It's our only option. Kira needs medical attention, and I need to know if anyone else survived who can verify what really happened. I close the notebook and wake her gently. We're moving again, sweetheart. She doesn't complain, doesn't ask questions, just gathers her few possessions and follows me into the radioactive wilderness. The Geiger counter's rhythm changes as we walk, sometimes slower, sometimes faster, like a heartbeat that can't find its proper cadence. In the distance, I can see the lights of what used to be civilization. They still burn in some places, creating the illusion that normal life continues. But the satellites don't lie. The thermal signatures show the truth. Whole neighborhoods empty, evacuation routes clogged with abandoned vehicles, emergency response teams working in areas where their equipment isn't calibrated for the actual radiation levels. Avina always said that nuclear power was safe when properly managed. She'd spent 15 years proving that theory, implementing safety protocols, training personnel, conducting inspections. She died making sure her reactor didn't become another Chernobyl. The bastards who planned this operation knew exactly what they were doing. Not a spectacular attack that would unite the country in outrage, but a slow-motion disaster that would destroy confidence in American nuclear energy for generations. Economic warfare disguised as industrial accident. As we walk through the darkness, following the faint trace of a deer path that leads northeast, I think about the final entry I'll write when we reach wherever we're going. If we reach it, if there's anyone left to read it. The silent invasion was never about foreign troops or cyber attacks on military systems. It was about turning our own infrastructure against us, using our trust in institutions and our faith in official explanations to blind us to the truth until it was too late to stop. Kira stumbles, and I catch her elbow. Her skin is warm to the touch, too warm. The lymph node swelling is getting worse. We have maybe 18 hours before the radiation exposure becomes critical. The Geiger counter clicks steadily as we disappear into the contaminated night, two survivors of a war that most people don't even know was fought. Above us, the stars shine through atmosphere that carries invisible death on the wind. Behind us, the lights of the dead cities flicker like dying embers. Ahead of us, grid coordinates and the hope of medical treatment. Between us and salvation, 40 miles of the most dangerous landscape in North America. The clicking continues. Each pulse a countdown, each step a prayer. End field report. Status, Kia A. Ren confirmed, A. Win confirmed, N. Sloan terminated. Mission status, continuing. Next contact, unknown. After action report, Project Silent Threshold declassified. From the personal files of Dreven Ren, CIA Nuclear Security Division. Classification, UMBRA, eyes only. Location, Hardin Facility Sierra, 7, coordinates redacted. Day 12 post-incident. The concrete bunker smells like disinfectant and recycled air, but it's the sweetest smell I've encountered in 2 weeks. Real air filtration, real radiation shielding, real hope that my daughter might live to see her next birthday. Commander Sarah Chun meets us at the decontamination chamber, her radiation badge clean white against mine that's turned the dark purple of someone who's absorbed enough REMs to shorten his life considerably. She doesn't comment on it. Professional courtesy among the walking dead. Agent Ren, she says, checking Emma's readings on the portable scanner. Your daughter's levels are manageable. We can help her. The relief nearly drops me to my knees. Emma grips my hand tighter, and I realize she's been afraid this whole time, not just of the radiation, but that no one could fix what was happening to her body. 8 years old, and she's already learned the world isn't safe. Chun leads us deeper into the facility. How many others made it out? I ask. You're the 37th survivor we've confirmed. Out of approximately 2,000 government personnel who had direct knowledge of nuclear facility vulnerabilities. Her voice carries the weight of those numbers. The extraction was extremely thorough. The command center opens before us, banks of monitors, communication arrays, personnel moving with the focused efficiency of people who know they're fighting for everything that matters. On the main screen, a world map dotted with red markers. Too many red markers. 18 countries, Chen explains, following my gaze. All with similar incidents over the past 6 months. Nuclear facilities experiencing routine maintenance issues that resulted in low-level contamination. The pattern was invisible until you factor in the economic impact. She pulls up financial data, stock prices, energy futures, international trade agreements. Every country hit experienced the same cascade. Public confidence in nuclear energy collapses. Massive cleanup costs drain government resources. Energy dependence shifts to foreign suppliers. She pauses. Except those foreign suppliers somehow manage to avoid similar incidents. The scope of it hits me like a physical blow. Economic warfare, on a scale we've never seen. But here's what you need to know about Project Silent Threshold. Chen inputs her authorization codes, and a new file structure appears. Your wife wasn't killed to silence her knowledge of the sabotage. My chest tightens. What do you mean? Avina was one of Silent Threshold's primary assets. She'd been documenting vulnerabilities and reporting directly to a joint CIA task force for 18 months. Chen's voice gentles. She was working for us, Dreven. She knew about the foreign infiltration because we'd been tracking it. The world tilts. Avina keeping secrets. Avina working intelligence operations while kissing me goodbye every morning, helping Emma with homework every night. She never told me, because you weren't cleared for Silent Threshold. Your supervisor, Vale, ensured you stayed compartmentalized. Chen pulls up more files. Theron wasn't compromised by foreign agents, Dreven. He was following direct orders from Deputy Director Morrison. I stare at Morrison's photo on the screen. golf partner of 3 energy secretaries, board member of the largest renewable energy consortium in North America. They wanted this to happen, I whisper. Not the contamination. That was foreign escalation beyond our modeling. But the nuclear industry collapse? The shift in energy infrastructure? Chin nods grimly. Certain interests saw the foreign sabotage as an opportunity to accelerate American energy transition. They decided to let it proceed while monitoring the process. And when the foreign agents escalated beyond economic sabotage to actual radiation release, Morrison ordered containment of information rather than containment of radiation. Political considerations superseded public safety. Chen's disgust is clear. Avina threatened to go public when she realized people were dying from exposure. That's when she became a liability. The pieces fall together with sickening clarity. Avina's strange absences, her detailed questions about my security protocols, the way she held Emma a little tighter the last few weeks, as if she knew something was coming. The cooling system failure at her plant, I say. Remote override. Morrison's people activated the same malware the foreign agents installed, but used it to cause immediate catastrophic failure rather than gradual release. Chen's voice turns cold. Your wife died preventing total meltdown, but she was murdered by the people she trusted to protect America. Emma tugs at my sleeve. Daddy, is Mommy in trouble? I kneel beside her, fighting to keep my voice steady. No, sweetheart. Mommy was trying to help people. She was very brave, and she was braver than I understood. While I was filing reports and following protocols, Avina was risking everything to protect the country. While I was analyzing data, she was gathering intelligence that could have prevented thousands of deaths. If Morrison had let her, Chun leads us to the medical bay where a team of specialists begins Emma's treatment. Potassium iodide, chelation therapy, procedures I don't understand but trust because they're the first real help we've found. While they work, Chin shows me the rest of Silent Threshold's findings. The foreign operation was codenamed Quiet Harvest, she explains. Economic disruption through infrastructure sabotage, with extraction of nuclear technology and personnel as secondary objectives. They've been running similar operations globally for 3 years. The extraction ship, the foreign teams hunting survivors. It wasn't just about covering up the sabotage. They were collecting American nuclear expertise to prevent us from rebuilding. But here's what they didn't count on. Chin brings up communication intercepts. Your wife's intelligence network included assets in 15 countries. When she realized Morrison was compromised, she activated a dead man's switch. Every piece of evidence about Quiet Harvest, every detail about American collaboration, every financial record connecting Morrison to energy interests, it's all been transmitted to international oversight agencies. Avina did that? Your wife was a lot more than a nuclear engineer, Drevin. She was one of the best intelligence assets we've ever developed. Chen's respect is clear. Her sacrifice wasn't just preventing meltdown. It was ensuring the truth would survive even if she didn't. I think about Avina's final transmission. The professional calm in her voice. The way she told me she loved us, as if she was saying goodbye forever rather than just until the emergency passed. She knew exactly what she was doing. The extraction ship, I say. Can we stop it? Chun nods toward the communications array. They're scheduled to rendezvous with a submarine in 18 hours. We have assets in position, but we need someone with your expertise to identify which personnel and materials they're extracting. And the evidence Avina transmitted will be released simultaneously with the interdiction. Maximum impact, maximum accountability. Chin meets my eyes, but it requires someone to operate inside the contamination zone. Someone who can identify nuclear materials and personnel from stolen manifest data. I look through the medical bay window at Emma, finally receiving real treatment, finally safe. Then I look at the map of red markers, all the other daughters and sons and wives and husbands who weren't as lucky as we were. What do you need me to do? Chun hands me a radiation suit, fresh equipment, a mission briefing that outlines exactly how we're going to expose everyone responsible for the silent invasion, foreign and domestic. We're going to finish what Avina started, she says. We're going to make sure this never happens again. I seal the radiation suit and check my equipment. 18 hours to reach the extraction point. 18 hours to honor my wife's sacrifice by ensuring her intelligence reaches the world. Emma waves at me through the medical bay window, already looking healthier under the clean lights and real medical care. I wave back, hoping it won't be the last time. But even if it is, she'll grow up in a world where the truth about the silent invasion is known. Where the people responsible, all of them, face justice. That's worth any price I have to pay. Operation Spotlight, authorization, desperate measures. Day 12, 0347 hours, mobile command post. The radiation detector's steady clicking has become background noise, like a mechanical heartbeat counting down to zero. I'm writing this while Commander Hayes briefs the skeleton crew we've assembled for what he's calling Operation Spotlight. The name feels appropriate. We're about to shine a light on 12 days of darkness, assuming we survive the next 6 hours. Emma sleeps in the medical bay, her fever finally broken thanks to the potassium iodide treatments. The facility's doctor says she'll make a full recovery if we can maintain her medication schedule. That's a big if. Our supplies run out in 72 hours, and the nearest verified medical cache is in contaminated territory. The extraction ship arrived at Baltimore Harbor 20 minutes ago, right on schedule. Isla's intercepts were accurate. The foreign team is using a modified cargo vessel to evacuate their assets and collected intelligence. What we didn't anticipate was the electromagnetic shielding. Standard radio frequencies can't penetrate it, which means our evidence broadcasts won't reach the outside world unless we get inside their comm systems. Hayes spread the satellite photos across the table like a poker hand. The ship's docked at Pier 47, surrounded by what looks like a standard longshoreman crew, but moves with military precision. Thermal imaging shows at least 30 personnel aboard, plus cargo containers that could hold anything from nuclear material samples to evacuating personnel. The ship's communication array is here. Hayes pointed to a cluster of equipment on the superstructure. Military grade, probably hardened against EMP. But it's also networked to international maritime channels for navigation. If we can access their primary transmitter during their departure window, we could piggyback our evidence onto their navigation broadcasts. I studied the approach routes, thinking like an analyst instead of a commando. They'll monitor all standard frequencies. What about using their own equipment against them? That's the plan. We've got a modified signal booster that can override their transmission protocols, but someone needs to physically connect it to their primary array. The radiation levels on that ship. Hayes didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The extraction team isn't just stealing intelligence. They're taking samples of contaminated materials to prove the success of their operation. The ship's hull is probably hot enough to cook a person in minutes. Even with our protective gear, exposure time would be fatal. I'll do it, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. I know their communication protocols, and I've got the technical background to adapt our equipment to their systems. Hayes shook his head. You've got a daughter to think about. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Emma needs those medical supplies, and she needs a world where this doesn't happen again. If we don't stop this now, there will be other silent invasions. Other children getting sick because their parents didn't listen to the warnings. 0445 hours, approach to Pier 47. The Zodiac boat cuts through the harbor water like a whisper. Baltimore's skyline looks normal from here, but I know better. The downtown area is a ghost town, officially evacuated, but actually abandoned when the government realized the radiation monitoring equipment had been compromised for months. The real contamination levels are 3 times higher than reported. My radiation detector is secured in a lead-lined pouch to prevent detection. The suit's internal dosimeter is already climbing from ambient exposure. Not dangerous yet, but we're entering the outer edge of the contamination zone. The extraction ship chose their location carefully, knowing American response teams would be reluctant to operate in this area. Through night vision goggles, I can see the ship's crew moving with practiced efficiency. Loading procedures that look routine, but follow patterns I recognize from CIA training manuals. These aren't longshoremen, they're intelligence operatives completing their extraction under commercial cover. The ship's name is Meridian Venture, registered in Panama, but flying a Liberian flag. Classic intelligence cover. I've seen this setup before in case studies, but experiencing it in person feels different. More personal. These people killed my wife and poisoned my daughter, and they're about to escape with proof of their success. Hayes' voice crackles through the radio earpiece. Thermal shows increased activity on the stern deck. They're preparing to depart ahead of schedule. Time compression. The mission just got more desperate. We'd planned for a 2-hour window, but now we've got maybe 30 minutes before they clear the harbor. Once they reach international waters, the evidence disappears forever. Copy that. Proceeding to primary objective. The Zodiac's motor cuts out, and we drift toward the ship's starboard side. My partner, Lieutenant Rodriguez from the facility's security team, secures the boat while I prepare the climbing gear. The ship's hull towers above us like a steel cliff, riveted and rust-stained. The Geiger counter in my suit starts clicking faster. 0512 hours, aboard the Meridian Venture. The deck plates vibrate with engine noise as the ship prepares for departure. I've made it to the superstructure, but the radiation levels are climbing toward dangerous territory. The dosimeter shows I've absorbed nearly half of what's considered a fatal dose. Time is running out in more ways than one. The communication array is exactly where Hayes predicted, a cluster of satellite dishes and radio equipment mounted on the ship's bridge structure. But there's a problem. The access panel is surrounded by what looks like a routine maintenance crew, but their movements are too coordinated, too alert. Security disguised as workers. I key the radio. Overwatch, this is Spotlight. Target is protected by at least 4 hostiles. Proceeding with alternative approach. Negative Spotlight. Your radiation exposure is already critical. Abort and extract. But I can't abort. Not when Emma's lying in that medical bay. Not when Avina's sacrifice would be meaningless. Not when thousands of other families are going to suffer if this evidence doesn't get out. I switch off the radio and focus on the problem. The maintenance crew is thorough but predictable. They're checking equipment in sequence, moving from bow to stern. If I time this right, I can reach the communication array during their next rotation. But I'll need a distraction. The ship's cargo containers are stacked along the main deck, each one potentially containing nuclear material samples or evacuating personnel. One container has a loose securing cable, and the ship's movement in the harbor swell is causing it to shift. A little help from a crowbar could create a convincing accident. I work my way down to the cargo deck, keeping to the shadows between containers. The radiation here is intense. My suit's alarm is beeping steadily, indicating exposure levels that will cause immediate health effects. But I've already absorbed enough radiation to shorten my lifespan. The question is whether I'll live long enough to complete the mission. The securing cable snaps with a sharp crack, and the container shifts suddenly, striking another container with a metallic boom that echoes across the harbor. Voices shout in a language I don't recognize, Russian, maybe, or one of the Eastern European dialects Isla was good at identifying. The security team rushes toward the noise, leaving the communication array temporarily unguarded. I sprint across the deck, climbing the external ladder to the bridge superstructure. My hands are shaking, whether from radiation exposure or adrenaline, I can't tell. The signal booster weighs maybe 2 pounds, but it feels like lead in my grip. The access panel opens with a standard tool, revealing the ship's communication nerve center. Military-grade equipment, definitely not civilian maritime gear. I identify the primary transmission line and begin connecting our modified booster. The device is designed to piggyback onto their signals, broadcasting our evidence on multiple frequencies simultaneously. What the hell are you doing? The voice speaks English with a slight accent. I turn to see a man in ship's coveralls holding a pistol, his stance suggesting military training. One of the security team, probably the leader. Maintenance, I reply, continuing to work on the connections. Routine pre-departure check. You're not crew. He steps closer, weapon trained on my center mass. American intelligence, probably CIA. You're the analyst who's been causing problems. Just a civil servant trying to do his job. The connections are almost complete. The booster's status light blinks red, then amber, then green. Active and ready. Your job is finished. Your country's nuclear program is destroyed. Your economy will collapse, and your people will spend decades dealing with the health effects. We've won. I activate the booster and hear the whine of its transmission system coming online. The evidence is broadcasting now. Satellite photos, radiation readings, intercepted communications, Avina's technical analysis of the sabotage. Everything we've collected is going out on multiple frequencies, including the ship's own navigation channels. Actually, I say, standing up to face him. "I think you'll find that your job is finished." The man's radio crackles with urgent voices. Someone's detected the unauthorized transmission. The ship's crew is scrambling to locate the source, but it's too late. The evidence is already reaching maritime satellites, Coast Guard stations, and international monitoring networks. "You've killed yourself for nothing," the man says, but his voice lacks conviction. "No one will believe it. Too much political pressure to keep this quiet." "Maybe, but at least they'll have the truth to work with." He raises the pistol, but the ship lurches suddenly as the engines reverse. The container accident has caused more damage than I realized. The ship is taking on water, or maybe the Port Authority has deployed harbor patrol vessels to investigate the disturbance. Either way, the extraction is compromised. The man's attention shifts to his radio, and I take the opportunity to activate the booster's secondary function, a feedback loop that will burn out the ship's communication system from the inside. They won't be able to coordinate their escape or communicate with their handlers. "Goodbye," I say, and dive over the rail into the harbor. 0547 hours, harbor water. The water is cold and probably contaminated, but it's better than staying on that ship. I can hear shouting from the deck above, and the sound of engines as harbor patrol boats converge on the Meridian Venture. The extraction is blown, the evidence is broadcasting, and the foreign team is trapped. I swim toward the Zodiac's position, my radiation suit making me clumsy in the water. The dosimeter is still climbing, but more slowly now that I'm away from the ship's cargo. I might survive this after all. Rodriguez pulls me from the water with professional efficiency. "Mission accomplished? Mission accomplished. Get us back to the facility. Emma needs to see that her dad kept his promise." As we speed away from the harbor, I can see the extraction ship surrounded by Coast Guard vessels. Floodlights illuminate the deck, and I can make out figures being escorted to patrol boats. The foreign team's careful operation has become a very public arrest. The evidence is out there now. Satellite feeds, maritime communications, Coast Guard records. Too much data from too many sources to suppress or discredit. The truth about the silent invasion will emerge, no matter what political pressures try to contain it. My radio crackles with Hayes' voice. "Spotlight, this is Overwatch. Confirm mission status." "Overwatch, this is Spotlight. Package delivered, opposition neutralized. Coming home." "Copy that, Spotlight. Medical team standing by. Your daughter is asking for you." I lean back in the Zodiac and watch the Baltimore skyline fade into the distance. The radiation detector is still clicking, but it's getting fainter. Or maybe I'm just getting used to the sound. Either way, I'm going home to Emma with the truth in my pocket and the promise that she'll grow up in a world that listens to its warnings. The silent invasion is over. The loud reckoning is about to begin. Situation assessment, post-operation analysis. Classification, declassified. Date, 6 months after Operation Spotlight. Reporting officer, Drevin Ren Rett. The International Tribunal concluded yesterday. 43 foreign nationals expelled. 17 American officials indicted for conspiracy. The cleanup will take decades. I'm writing this from the Denver Regional Medical Center, Room 4C. The doctors say I have maybe 2 years if I'm lucky. Radiation does that to you. Takes its time, makes you think about what matters. Through my window, I can see the mountains. They're clean. The air tastes like snow and pine instead of metal and fear. Emma's at school today, 3rd grade. She can read a radiation detector better than most adults, but she shouldn't have to. That's on us. On me. The official report called it the silent threshold incident. Sanitized language for what really happened. 312 American deaths directly attributed to radiation exposure. Unknown thousands more who'll develop cancers over the next decade. Economic losses in the hundreds of billions. But the report doesn't capture the sound of Ina made over that radio, or the way Isla's hand shook when she pushed me toward the extraction point, or the moment I realized Nevera had been playing us from the beginning. It doesn't talk about the silence. That's what they got right about the name. It was silent because nobody wanted to hear it. The energy companies didn't want to admit their security was compromised. The politicians didn't want to admit they'd been warned. The intelligence community didn't want to admit we'd been outmaneuvered by what they kept calling a handful of foreign technicians. But it wasn't a handful. It was a coordinated economic warfare campaign that took 3 years to implement. They studied our systems, our politics, our blind spots. They knew we'd downplay the threats, suppress the investigations, prioritize short-term stability over long-term security. They knew us better than we knew ourselves. The contamination maps look like cancer metastasizing across the eastern seaboard. Exclusion zones that will outlast my daughter's children. 3 nuclear facilities permanently shuttered. The American nuclear program set back by decades, exactly as planned. But they didn't get everything. The international response surprised them. When our broadcast went out, when the world saw the evidence of what had happened, the solidarity was immediate. Medical teams, cleanup crews, monitoring equipment. The European Union fast-tracked radiation treatment protocols. Japan shared decontamination technology. Even China provided specialized equipment, though I suspect they were covering their own involvement. The extraction ship never made it out of international waters. Coast Guard intercepted it 18 hours after our transmission. Turns out broadcasting the truth to the world makes it very hard for conspirators to disappear quietly. Emma runs into my room after school, backpack bouncing, radiation detector clipped to her belt like it's normal. Like every 8-year-old should know how to check for contamination before eating lunch. Dad, we learned about the water cycle today. Did you know rain can carry particles from really far away? Yeah, kiddo. I know. She shows me her homework, a drawing of the water cycle with little radiation symbols mixed in with the clouds and raindrops. Her teacher probably thinks she's being creative. She doesn't know my daughter learned about radioactive precipitation by living through it. Are you feeling okay today? Emma asks, checking the medicine schedule taped to my bedside table. She's too young to understand dosages, but she knows the colors of the pills, knows when I need the anti-nausea medication. Good day today, I tell her. It's mostly true. The pain is manageable. The nausea comes and goes. Some days I can almost forget what's happening inside my cells. Mom would be proud of you, she says, settling into the chair beside my bed. For stopping the bad guys. Avina would be proud, but not for the reasons Emma thinks. She'd be proud that I finally learned to listen. To the radiation detectors when they showed readings that didn't make sense. To the patterns in the data that everyone else ignored. To the silence between the words in those intercepted transmissions. The hardest part isn't dying. It's leaving Emma in a world where silent invasions are possible. Where economic warfare can masquerade as environmental accident. Where the people trusted to protect us sometimes choose profit over safety. But she's stronger than I was at her age. She's seen what happens when adults fail to pay attention. She knows the difference between official reports and lived truth. She understands that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones nobody wants to admit exist. The nurses have started their evening rounds. Emma kisses my forehead and heads to her temporary foster family. Good people cleared by the agency, trained in radiation safety protocols. She'll be 18 when my pension runs out, when the government compensation ends. She'll need to know how to navigate a world where invisible threats require constant vigilance. Before she leaves, I hand her a sealed envelope. What's this? Instructions. For when you're older. How to recognize the patterns. How to listen for the silence. How to know when the people in charge aren't paying attention. She nods solemnly, tucking the envelope into her backpack next to her homework and radiation detector. After she's gone, I return to my final report. Not the sanitized version that will end up in congressional hearings and policy recommendations. The real one. The one that tells the truth about what we missed and why we missed it. Lessons learned. Silent threats are often the most devastating. Loud explosions get attention. Quiet sabotage gets ignored until it's too late. Economic warfare is warfare. Destroying infrastructure, contaminating resources, undermining public trust. These are acts of war disguised as accidents. Institutional capture happens gradually, then suddenly. The enemy doesn't need to infiltrate every level. They just need to understand which levels matter most. Truth-telling is a survival skill. In a world of competing narratives and official denials, the ability to recognize and report reality becomes a matter of national security. Individual expertise matters less than institutional will. We had the knowledge to prevent this. We lacked the political courage to act on it. The snow outside my window is clean. The mountains are clean. The air tastes like possibility instead of contamination. Emma will grow up knowing that clean air isn't guaranteed, that safety requires vigilance, that sometimes the most patriotic thing you can do is refuse to stay quiet. I fold the report and seal it in an envelope marked for release, 2035. By then, the immediate crisis will be history. The cleanup will be complete. The political fallout will have settled. Emma will be old enough to understand why her father spent his last years writing down everything that went wrong and how to prevent it from happening again. The machines beside my bed beep softly, monitoring my vital signs, tracking the progression of cellular damage that can't be reversed. But they also record the moment I finish this report, the moment I complete the mission that started with routine anomaly reports and ends with warning the future. Outside, the first stars appear in the darkening sky. Clean light from distant suns, traveling through space uncontaminated by human politics or foreign sabotage. Emma will see those same stars when she's my age, when she's training the next generation to listen for the silence, to watch for the patterns, to refuse to accept that some truths are too inconvenient to acknowledge. The silent invasion succeeded because we weren't listening. The next one will fail because now we know what silence sounds like. End report. Final entry. For Emma, for the future, for everyone who understands that the price of safety is constant attention to the threats nobody wants to admit exist. The invasion was silent, but the response doesn't have to be. This concludes the classified documentation of the Silent Threshold incident. All materials have been declassified pursuant to Senate Resolution 447 and the Nuclear Security Transparency Act of 2029. For additional information, contact the National Radiation Exposure Compensation Board or the Nuclear Infrastructure Security Archive. In memory of Avina Wren, Isla Wynn, and all those who sacrificed their lives to expose the truth.